Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Hello, how do you do? We are the boys in white and blue, and we're back for another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Patter.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
And welcome to the last episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Before we hit episode 500, yes, we've got our milestone episode coming up next week, but that's for the future. We've got a packed show this time, mostly focusing on Whitecaps chat. We're going to be looking at all the big stories in Whitecaps land this week. We're going to be chatting about the 3 pre-season games that they've got under their belt, and then we're also going to be turning our attention to the exciting, hopeful news that came out this week that Vancouver is still in the mix for hosting World Cup games in 2026. All of that is to come. Before we get into any of that though, it's time to start off with how we're starting off a lot of the shows this year. It's TVOD. 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 Yes, TVOD, for those maybe new to the show that don't know what TVOD is sometimes it's just a section where we're going to be chatting to Whitecaps players about their favourite TV shows or any TV shows that they're watching just now to pass the time. Other times, like this week, we're going to be chatting about a specific TV programme or a documentary or a film or a movie documentary, various things that we're going to cover that you can either find on the various streaming services or in DVD or downloads or just a wide variety of places. So in this week's show, we're getting right up to date with a movie that came out in 2020. It's available on Netflix. It's an Italian film called Ultras. I maybe should have saved this for next month because it is obviously Football Violence Awareness Month in March. But the plot of Ultras revolves around escalating violence by football fans in Naples, and it kind of tells the story of a split in the Ultras, a kind of the old school guys, the older guys that's been with the Ultras for a number of years, started the Ultras in some cases, and the new crop coming through that want to do things a little bit different. And then you've got it's kind of like a tier system really, where you've got the young guys coming through as well, and they're not allowed to do certain things at matches, and they've got to just wait, and they're kind of more the errand boys for some of the stuff as well. So we'll get a little bit into the film, but I mean, Zach, this must just have taken you back to your Curva Collective days.
That's both funny and not funny. No, not really. I think one thing we have to point out, Michael, like it says at the very beginning of the film, is that this is like not based directly on any of the real
yeah,
groups.
It's not based on that. I want to say that the main intro group there is called the Neapolitanos or something. It's something like that anyway, but this was a made-up, a fictitious ultra group called Apache,
Yeah.
And then there's a little split, and there's No Name Naples as another group that kind of comes along and wants to do things differently. So yeah, they did stress. We should also probably point out right from the start as well, it's a very violent film. Lots of sex, lots of violence.
Yeah.
It's not going to be for everyone. It's definitely a mature audience.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is I think it also makes note that no ultras were involved in actually making the movie.
Yeah, no ultras were harmed in the making of this movie.
Well, not the harm, but that weren't involved, which in the ultra community would be significant. Like you wouldn't want to be connected to something like this.
Probably not.
But you're right. Yeah, this is not for everyone. I don't know. I think it's rated TVMA or whatever. Like, yeah, it's got significant language, even though it's in Italian, and I watched it with subtitles. And
well, yeah, that's the thing. I watched it with in Italian with subtitles, and then during it, I thought I'll maybe just try it dubbed in English, because I like foreign films. I used to go. I've spoken about this in the show before. I used to go to a place in Edinburgh called the Film House, and it was a very arty film house because that was me, pretentious prick back in the day. But I used to love to hang out there. It's an absolutely wonderful cinema, and they had a lot of art house films and foreign films and stuff like that. So I like a good foreign film. I tried it dubbed into English, and I lasted 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The scene, just randomly that I decided to do it, an American couple come into a cafe and they're asking directions.
Oh, yeah.
And the ultras are telling them where to go. And they're doing that in an American accent. It's like, hey, you Americans, get out of here.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, go back to the Italian now.
Any foreign film, when it's dubbed into English, it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Any foreign film. I haven't seen one good one yet.
Yeah. And so there's lots of violence. There's lots of language. That Michael said there's sex.
A lot.
Yeah.
Drugs.
A lot. Yeah, drug use. And it's not. And then there are just some things that I think people, especially in our current culture, would find offensive. Like even probably the name of the main ultra group, Apache, with the symbol.
Yeah, I was talking to Caitlin about that as well, because they've got tattoos on them of like Native American, your traditional Apache look, I guess, if you think back to old movies and stuff. So yeah, I wondered how that will go down in certain markets and stuff at the moment. I guess first and foremost, did you enjoy it?
I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I mean, it was some parts were a little bit interesting, but I think it's also important.
Like the movie here,
it's also a little bit. Well, I don't know. It's on Netflix. Like people watch it or not. Like it's not the end of the world. But it's not like for those who've seen things like Green Street or Football Factories or that kind of stuff. Like it's not, or Football Factory. It's not. It's like an Italian take on. So it's the Italian culture of things. So it's not quite the same. Although there are maybe some similarities. But I don't know, because I appreciate Italian football culture, and I do find some parts of the ultra supporter culture interesting. In that sense, I found it interesting to watch.
Now, Steve, we had a little chat about it before we were recording. This film didn't blow you away.
No, it's just the script was a little bit light. The characters weren't really drawn. I feel like this would have been really well done if it was done in like a 10-episode mini-series kind of thing, where they could have really brought it up and everything like that, brought it out. Overall, it seemed very forced. It was filmed really well. I really enjoyed the music and stuff like that. But
yeah, it was an interesting selection of music.
Yeah, but the film itself, I'm not a big fan of it all. It was lazy and cheap and stuff like that. It didn't really give a motivation. Obviously, everybody that knows ultras culture knows the motivation, but for people that are not part of it, it doesn't really give a motivation for them. It doesn't really bring it out.
Well, so were you hoping to watch the film and then go and cause trouble at football?
No, I'm just no. But you need it. Like you need to show a motivation for these characters why they act this way. I just don't feel like it was enough for me. And no,
that's interesting, yeah, because like in a 10-part series, you could go into the backstory of a few of the guys as to how they got involved in the gang and what turned them on to it and stuff.
Because it seemed like that's what they want to do, but you can't really do that. I think it was like an hour and
I earned
40-minute
40,
movie.
yeah.
So it's not even a full 2-hour movie. So it's hard to
Yeah.
get all that into.
That's fair, right? Because the movie starts off with the main guy, one of his buddies, who like they can't go to the football because they've been banned, right?
Yeah, so they have to sign in at the police station.
When the game
every home game.
I like the chant "Honor the Band." That was nice. That was a kind of a memorable moment too when they would do that. I mean, just to let you know, I know they said at the beginning that this is not based on anything. In 2019 October, because I when you brought this up and everything, I watched it. I remember we talked about this. There was a Naples ultra that was arrested for killing an Inter Milan supporter by running him over with an SUV.
Oof.
So it was basically a little bit based. Maybe they and you think of it, it was released in 2020. It seems like they rushed it and kind of released it. It seems a pretty coincidence that they brought a movie out in 2020 after that happened in 2019.
I mean, this is probably going to shock you guys and the listeners, but I've watched a lot of football violence films and movies over the years. And they do fall from the excellent, and in the excellent category, I put the UK film The Firm, not to be confused with the Tom Cruise one. It's probably one of my favourite films. And ID, which is going to be a film that we do this year, which I'll find out what streaming services it's on. I've got it on 2 different DVDs here. That's how much I like it, that I will give it to you guys if we can't find it on one of the streaming services. It's about Shadwell Town and an undercover cop that gets in too deep with a gang. They're excellent. At the other end of the scale, things like Green Street Hooligans, I think, is terrible, and it's just been made.
It's more like comical, like
Yeah. I put this firmly in the middle. I enjoyed a lot of this. I enjoyed a lot of elements of it. Now, we won't spoil some of the main plot points in it for people that want to watch it. But as it was going through, I had said to Caitlin, who she was reading a book, but it was on, and she kind of glanced up every now and again. But I felt it was going to go to one of 2 endings. I thought it's pretty obvious where this is going, and I was hoping for a bit of a shock. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. A few things I learned from the film. I would love, if I get married again, which I'm not hoping to, Caitlin, if you're listening upstairs. I think having football fans and ultras at a wedding, I think that elevates a wedding. I think football chants at weddings should be a thing.
Yeah.
Weddings, funerals, all occasions. Get some football fans chanting there.
Yeah. That was actually, the opening scene was quite nice,
Yeah, it was good. I mean, in short, it's a tale really about 2 guys. Sandro, who's one of the original ultras, and he's been through a lot. He's one of the guys that's banned now because of things that he has done. And a young kid called Angelo as well, that without going into why, because you'll learn it in the film if you watch it, Sandro feels kind of responsible for Angelo and kind of wants to protect him and keep him away from following the path that he followed. So it's the tale of those 2 really, and it's following Naples as they're going to try and win the championship, and it's all building up to the final game of the season where they're going down to Rome and various stuff like that. I did find it interesting. Like the tifo painting, Zach. Is that how Curva ran your tifo? Did you have the little minions doing it? And if you went outside the lines, lo and behold, what you did to those poor lads.
All the stories I could tell about people painting outside the lines. No, that was actually one of the more disappointing parts of the film, is that the only kind of tifo that I remember them showing was like word banners. There were not a lot of big. I mean, there were other banners at some points or whatever, but there was no like big display, right?
No, not that we saw. A lot of it was focused though in what was going on while they were displaying it, and like trying to get into other parts of the stadium, and the banners do play a kind of part of the story as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was just more focusing on the bigger.
I liked how there was a huge significance to them making these banners that express messages that were important to them. I like that.
But I thought it was good. I thought the fight scenes were quite realistic. I've seen some bad ones in films in the past as well. I think that was as well. Basically, they said there's 2 laws that you follow if you're an ultra: consistency and mentality. And I think, like, no matter whether we're looking at obviously violent ultras in this case, or just ultras, football supporters, things like Curva Collective, Southsiders that's not into that side of things, that's what you want. You want consistency. You want folk to be there every week following the team, and the mentality of, yep, we want to do what we can to help the team win. So I thought that was good. And an ultra on his own is nobody, which is one of the things that you can take from this as well. Overall, I was going between a 7 and an 8 out of 10 for it. And I was in the 8 category, but at the ending, I was a bit disappointed. So I'm probably going to go a high 7, I think, for me.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know we were giving numbers to this. Yeah,
I just thought I'd do it this week, start it.
Yeah, I think 7's fair.
I give it a 5.
So you can check it out on Netflix. It's called Ultras. You can watch it in English dubbed, or you can watch it in Italian with subtitles. Or you can watch it in English with English subtitles. That kind of would defeat the purpose, I think, a little bit as well. I enjoyed it. If you watch it, let us know what you think. But that was this week's TVOD.
TVOD. I don't need a TV screen. I just stick the aerial into my skin and let the signal run through my veins. TVOD.
So that was TVOD there. It's proved to be one of our most popular segments that we've done in recent years. Had a lot of fantastic feedback to it. So thanks to everybody that has done that. What we might do as well is we'll maybe tweet out what we're going to be talking about in the next show to give you guys a chance to watch stuff as well. And if there's anything that you've seen that you'd like us to watch and talk about, or any of your favourite TV shows that's football related, or documentaries or movies, get in touch and we'll see what we can do, and we'll try and get those covered for it as well. But let's move on now with the actual football chat. Sadly, we're not starting off with on the pitch chat, but for the rest of this part, we're just going to look at one of the big football related news stories that has been in Vancouver this week. And that was finally Bob Birarda got into court, got in front of a judge, and pled guilty to charges that had been levelled against him. After delay after delay after delay, Birarda was in court and he pled guilty to 4 charges, including 3 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of sexual touching while in a position of authority. Those 4 charges encompassed the 4 women that had made allegations against him, so it was like 1 for each woman. It spans a period of almost 20 years between January 1998 and 2008, so from pre-Whitecaps to his time at the Whitecaps as well. It felt at times that this was never going to get heard in court. And we'll delve a little bit into some of the stuff surrounding it for the rest of this part. What I will say though is, from a Whitecaps perspective, we won't touch too much on that for now, because the inquiry is still ongoing by MLS. And really, until that is complete, I don't want to kind of speculate too much on what the outcomes might be, but we'll touch a little bit on that. But then as soon as we know the outcome of that inquiry, we'll certainly talk about the Whitecaps aspect of it a lot more. But let's just now focus on the Birarda case in court. Steve, were you surprised at the guilty plea after all this time? I certainly was. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah, at first I was surprised by it because of the fact I've been delaying it, but then it kind of made sense too, because it was possible that, because I think didn't he change lawyers at one point too?
I can't remember. This has genuinely gone on for so long. I can't even remember.
I could have sworn and I could be wrong. I could have sworn one of the delays was because they changed lawyers. and that's why it got delayed again. I'll check. Make
You
sure
might
that.
be right, actually.
And so my feeling is that maybe the lawyers kept telling him that you really don't have a chance. Like they have a solid evidence to convict you on something, and it was about convincing him to plead guilty instead of dragging this out. That's my feeling, is that maybe that's why it kept getting delayed, because he wasn't willing to accept it, and maybe it took some time before they got that. So looking back, initially, yes, 100% surprised, but looking back on it, probably not as much. That might be the reason why it was kept getting delayed.
I mean, Zach, was a surprise from you? I mean, there was more counts against him than this, but I mean, it seems fairly obvious that there was some kind of bargaining involved so that he would plead guilty, so that each of the women got a guilty verdict against him, and then the rest of the charges weren't heard. I mean, the great thing about this is the women now don't have to go into court and relive this and testify this, which I think it is fantastic.
Yeah, a little bit like you, Michael. I'm surprised actually that this has happened like so quickly after like whatever over a year of delays. I was also surprised that that there was this, there's a longer list of charges and only 4 of them were heard or pled to or whatever. And it obviously sounds like that's because of the lawyers have been talking and figuring out how to move forward, and we don't know what all is totally agreed on and all that kind of stuff, maybe behind the scenes. But I agree with you also in that, hopefully for the women involved, that they feel the beginning of some justice and some maybe even a little bit of peace and healing. And I agree with you that it's probably a relief for them that they don't have to in regards to this go into a courtroom and relive or reshare or whatever, all that happened. But it's obviously this is a kind of like a finally, but also to the beginning of what's next and what's to come.
Well, that's the thing. And I'll say this now. I don't understand the court system that much here. I don't know how things work. If he was going to plead guilty, why he waited this long to do it, I don't know. But then this was the first time it was in front of a judge, so did it have to wait for that? But then why all the delays? So I mean, all that is like confusing to me. So if there's any legal people listening to this that can explain this to me, I genuinely would love to know how all that kind of plays out. So it's now there's pre-sentencing reports getting done on him and background info and various things like that. Actual sentencing is expected to be in April, and we obviously don't want to speculate as to what that might be. You hope that justice will be finally served. You don't know what deals have maybe been done between the lawyers and what the outcome of this will be. My main hope in it is that whatever is handed down in April, the women feel is right, just, and they feel that they've got justice out of it. I don't know if you read the piece in the Province, Zach, from J.J. Adams. It's got some of the women involved talking about it. It's a tough read, but it's a read I think everyone should do. And there's relief, there's anger, and I mean, rightly, questions are going to be asked, they're getting asked now, but especially after sentencing, is there's other parties here. What's going to happen to them? And we're talking Whitecaps, we're talking Canada Soccer, and there's a lot of people that are going to have questions to answer in this. And whether we ever really get to the bottom of it, you have to hope that this inquiry that MLS are doing might get to some of the bottom of this, but there's definitely cases for these two parties to answer. It definitely, like I said, it feels like in one sense one thing has finished, but it's kind of the beginning of the next chapter in this story. And kind of like this last one where it was delayed for 12, 13 months. Who knows how long, how many days, weeks, months that the next part will
will take. But yeah, I think MLS's investigation that they're undergoing, I think there's a clear understanding that there needs to be considerable transparency when it comes to their findings and how that's all, what they found out and how they're going to react to that, or the steps they're going to take.
The CSA are also doing their own investigation.
Yeah, I was going to say that too as well. The CSA, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. It feels like there's more trust in the one that MLS is doing. I think many people feel it's more, less connected to the Whitecaps, even though MLS kind of, technically owns the Whitecaps and, whatever.
But who they've appointed are excellent at this.
Yeah.
They've been involved in a lot of these kind of cases, and they're totally independent.
Yeah.
And we should say, the Whitecaps have issued a statement on this as well, which in short is basically they can't really say much until this inquiry is complete. And I know some folk have said they were expecting more from that, but realistically, they can't, because they can't say anything that might prejudice this inquiry that's taken place. So they have to wait until this is complete.
And they have to, it's basically it allows the investigation to go without, basically against the accused people in that investigation, or the whatever that keep people suspended currently. It kind of doesn't sully that investigation. That's the last thing you want to do, because then you're liable for lawsuits against the club or MLS if you say something about that going on.
Yeah, because people were saying, they should just fire the 4 executives now, and it's like, well, you can't until the inquiry's underway, because what happens if the inquiry comes back and say, well, we don't think there was significant wrongdoing, then it's like you've just fired them.
No, at this point, I don't think that could be the case. I'll be very surprised if the people that are currently not with the club come back. Obviously, like you said earlier, we're not going to go too much into it.
Yeah,
but it's just a matter of making sure that everything runs smoothly. I also want to we need to give I know the women that were involved in everything, but the kind of the faces of this whole investigation for the women, because a lot of women didn't want to come forward publicly, but Eden and Kara, those are the 2 public faces, and I want to really commend them for all the stuff they've done over the years and stuff like that. And Kara put out a blog recently, and it was really, really well written, and the way she was felt down and everything like that, and the people that were able to lift her up after she hit published that was amazing. Great.
Also, Matthew Hall from The Guardian, who took these stories and took it to a much wider audience as well, and really turned the heat up.
Yeah, and I think there was one. I don't know if I don't think you mentioned. Is it Mallory Enoch? Is that the right name?
I'm not
sure.
That name's not coming up.
But the individual who shared her story about Hubert Busby.
Right.
Yes.
She also I think has been a catalyst for this happening, right? Because without her sharing further details of her story, MLS would not have gotten involved, and I think things wouldn't.
Well, yes, because then that was in the MLS era at that point.
Yeah.
And also, it also because it was also a catalyst from all the stuff that was happening in the women's league this year.
Yeah,
and it was another thing on top of that. So at that point, MLS couldn't say we're not involved. They had to be involved, and they had to do something about it, because it was another story that came up.
Yeah, it's just been a horrible time in women's soccer with all these allegations coming out, and there was more again recently about other stuff, and it's great that this is all coming out, and you have safe sport now and a lot better procedures in place that hopefully this will start to come out of the women's game. There's always going to be some bad characters that's involved, and stories will come out. From this case and this point of view, it looks like hopefully we're getting to the end of it, from getting justice and getting answers and getting what these women deserve point of view. But they still have to then live with what happened for the rest of their lives and the impact that it's had on them. But at least that's moved forward, and we'll just wait now for sentencing in April for Birarda, and then the outcome of the inquiries, and then I guess see where that leaves us where it leaves the people that were running the Whitecaps and Canada Soccer at that time as well. And we'll address a lot more of that there. It's never an easy subject to talk about. It's something we wish we didn't have to talk about, but it's an important thing. We felt it had to be our main lead on the show in talking about the football aspect. We'll move on to slightly happier topics now for the rest of the show, and we'll be back looking at the other Whitecaps news of the week after this.
Hi, I'm Vanni Sartini, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
It's not important for you to know my name, nor I to know yours. If we communicate for 2 minutes only, it will be enough. For knowing someone in this world feels as desperate as me, and what you give is what you get. It doesn't matter if we never meet again, but we have said we'll always remain. If we get through for 2 minutes only, it will be a start. For knowing that someone in this life loves with a passion called hate, and what you give is what you get. If I never ever see you, if I never ever see you, if I never ever see you again.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our Artist of the Month here at AFTN for February. English mod band, I guess you would call them, The Jam. That was their song Start, their 11th UK single, released in 1980, and it was their second number one. Based on the riff from the Beatles' Taxman song, it's a song about love of sorts. And I've played that because it's our special Valentine's weekend show. Love is in the air here at AFTN, and we love you, our listeners, and we hope you love us back. But I thought we'll have a love theme over the remaining 3 parts. Music-wise, some of the segments that we've got as well, it's all going to be focused on love. And I think we all love football. We'll get into specifically why we love it later on in the show. But what I did was I got a chance to ask a few of the Whitecaps guys just about their love of the game. What is it about football that they love so much? What was it that made them want football to be their chosen career? So let's kick things off with the thoughts of Tosaint Ricketts.
It must be love, love, love.
What is it about football that excites you, that made it want to be your career, that makes you still want it to be your career? What is it about football that you love so much?
Just the camaraderie, like just the teamwork, just a group of players from all across the world that speak different languages, coming together to accomplish one goal, and when that goal is accomplished, it can ignite a community. The community impact of a team and an organization like this is huge. Being in the community department, we're helping people's lives. We're making people's lives better. And there's not many jobs in this world that if you do it right, you're going to make someone's life better. And that's the beauty of this game. It's the world sport for a reason.
So when you were a kid, when did you know, look, I love this game? What ignited that first passion in you?
I think it was just watching my brothers play, I never got to play organized soccer till I was 13. So up to that point, my brothers were babysitting me. I'd be tagging along to their games, and I'd always just be on the side watching, with the fans. I became a fan before I even started playing, and just watching my brothers, seeing them, help our family out through getting scholarships and stuff like that. I just realized, I can really help my family and improve our lives, which, we grew up modest at best through a sport, so. And soccer was that sport.
It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best.
Tosaint Ricketts there, talking about his love of football, his love of the game, his passion for the game this Valentine's weekend. And that brings us nicely to this week's Whitecaps news of the week, because Toss found himself on the score sheet. We brought you the interview with Toss a couple of shows ago, and he was talking about being in the Whitecaps training camp as a trialist and wanting to show that he's worthy of an MLS roster spot. So good luck to Toss with getting that contract. He was on the sidelines for the San Diego game, though, with a ice pack on his leg. So fingers crossed it's nothing too bad and it's not going to maybe derail things for him. But yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. We'll have a quick look over the three of them in this part. The action got underway last Saturday with a 2-2 draw with a Club Tijuana 11. It was kind of a mixture of first team and kind of reserve guys. Full strength, pretty much Whitecaps team out in the first half. More of the fringe guys coming on in the second. There was pluses and minuses to take from this one. 2 goals, obviously the pluses. Leo Wusu got the Whitecaps off to a good start in the first half. And then Tosaint Ricketts got a goal in the second half. Thomas Hasal saved a penalty. Chance to get on the park again and get some chemistry going with the lads. That was all the pluses. Kyle has also joined the team now in San Diego, and he's been speaking about looking forward to the Columbus game, which of course is away from home, so he can definitely play in that one. Fingers crossed he can get his work visa sorted out, as we talked about in the last show, to play in the home opener against New York City at the start of March. But some positives from that first game, guys. Getting into it early, getting a couple of goals.
Yeah, it was good to see them get some goals. I know a Wusu goal was really nice. I think it was set up by Gold. And it's just really getting the rhythm, and especially the first game of the season. And I think they were delayed getting over to San Diego, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Well, they were going to go down earlier than they did.
Yeah.
And then they stayed another week here in Vancouver again.
No, they were delayed. I'm talking about delayed at the airport.
Oh, at the airport. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they were delayed getting in there, so maybe they didn't have enough time. But overall, good opening game. You want to get some goals. You want to, but you kind of don't want to give up goals as well. I think that's more important, and I think that helped them out in the next game.
Well, the goals that they did give up, Zach, were in the second half, and that was when they had more the fringe, the second kind of string on the pitch. I mean, defensively, they've been playing really well, and we'll come to that in a sec when we talk about the other games. But good to get on the pitch. It's all about chemistry, really, at this point. But it's also all about Vanny trying out this new formation that he wants to try, which seems to be 3-1-4-2.
Yeah, a different take than the 3-4-1-2.
And a couple of wing backs being what is listed as the actual things, as opposed to just midfielders. He wants them to be actual wing backs.
Yeah, was this the game where I might be confusing the games, but is this the game where Brown sat on the bench and someone else started? Who started?
No, that was the second game, because Brown
game.
Played in the first game and picked up a knock.
Oh, okay. No, I agree with you. Like what both of you guys are saying, this is about getting, into rhythm, and you can never get too bent out of shape about preseason results. I mean, unless you get smashed or something. So I don't think you can get too high or too low on these things, because you're right. You need to be getting out there, and you need to be finding form and match fitness and chemistry and all that kind of stuff. And I think these that's what we've seen, I think, in the preseason from Vancouver so far. I agree with you. Owusu's goal was well taken. I think Toss will be really happy to put his name on the score sheet and continue to try and stake his claim in the first team squad, which is his desire, as we heard in your interview a week or two ago, Michael. It'll be interesting to see because to me the one thing is that the formation, I thought he was going to go for a bit of more of a different formation, right? This just feels like a little bit not as different as I thought.
It's very samey, really.
I thought it would be more like,
at the back or something.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more like a 4-2-3-1 or something. Which again, it's not good or bad or anything. It's interesting to see that it's so close to the primary one.
Well, we're going to have Vanny on the show next week, so we'll talk to him about that. Steve, do you like a 3-1-4-2? I quite like it with who we've got personnel wise. I think it works quite good.
Yeah, it's a really attacking form, and it kind of makes, I think, the biggest thing, it probably makes Dahomey a little bit more comfortable in that position. But there's still, those wingbacks are going to have to be up and down the field.
Yeah, they have to put in a hell of a defensive shift.
Yeah, so it's going to be, it's even, especially with that one in the middle there. But yeah, it's going to, I think this also gives a chance to have Vitae and Gold on the field at the same time as well in certain games, because you don't want either one of them playing too far back either.
Now, the great thing that seems to have come from the 3-1-4-2 is that first game, 2 goals were obviously given up. In the remaining 2 games that we've had so far, which was against New Mexico United on Wednesday, and then this weekend on Saturday against San Diego Loyal, no goals given up at all in those 2 games. Now, that second pre-season game, a lot of people have said, I wish there was streams, and why is there not streams? We should be watching these games. I say just be thankful, because from watching the highlights, I don't think you want to sit through 90 minutes of that game, because the highlights were tough to watch. That wasn't a good advert for the team, and there certainly were maybe some concerns coming out of it. I think 2+ minutes of highlights is what we got from this game. And in that 2+ minutes, there was very little action. There was a few replays of various incidents, very little goal threat, very little to excite, really, to be totally honest. Godoy hit the post with a shot from a corner. The Caps threatened a little. The positive, though, was that New Mexico didn't get a sniff. They didn't have anything at all going. So I think defensively, this is the big positive to take from these 3 games so far, is we're looking good defensively, and I think we need to if we want to keep in the frame this year, guys.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't have a Maxime Crepeau to save you in some games, you need to be more defensively solid as an entire team. And so, yeah, I think that is a positive they can take from the preseason. So,
Steve, on the defensive side, they've been trying a variety of who's going to be in that back 3.
Yep.
And obviously we haven't seen the games per se, just the highlights that kind of go with it. I'm still thinking that we're looking at our first choice as being Blackman, Godoy and Jungwirth. Nothing, I assume, has changed my mind on that. I mean, what about yourself? We've talked about this a couple of times, but anything you're thinking differently?
No, for me, it's actually I would have Jungwirth all coming off the bench, and I would have Renko as my number 1. If everybody's on the roster currently is still on the roster. If it's Godoy, Blackman, and Renko, I feel like you need a little bit more of a physical presence with Renko, and that allows guys like Godoy and Blackman to play, not be forced to play in that role. I think you need, because a lot of teams are going to come with that big number 9 that they have to play up against, and I think Renko fits against that.
Yeah, assuming everything's equal and everyone's like fit, and
because he's mixed it up over these 3 games as well, so it's kind of hard to tell really what he has in mind.
Yeah, that's true. I think in an ideal world, I would I would like to see Godoy with Ranko and Jungwirth, I think.
Not Blackman.
Well, I haven't seen enough of Blackman to whatever, because he can also play out wide, right? He can be one of the.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a right back.
Yeah, so
turned centre back really.
But he might not be a wing back.
No, I don't
limits
know.
him from being that position.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he seems to think he can do that, but I'm not sure.
Jungwirth is more sentimental pick. I think over time, probably I'll say, oh yeah, Blackman should be there because he's younger and has better pace, or those kinds of things. But for the moment, I still would probably have Jungwirth higher up the depth chart based on just the things I've seen, and that'll change obviously really quickly here.
Well, yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of rotation.
I think Jungwirth is, by the second or third game when Godoy is down with an injury, I think you'll probably see Jungwirth in the lineup anyways.
Well, if Godoy is still here, because there was murmurs came out this week from various Argentine sources, which anything that comes out from South America, you do have to take with a big pinch of salt because there's a lot of agents working stuff and media working stuff. But there's rumours that Argentine side Tigre are wanting to bring Eric Godoy back. He started his career there in 2012. I still like Eric Godoy. I think he is, if everyone was up to speed and everyone was fully fit, probably our best centre-back. That concern about whether he can stay healthy, if we could get a good deal for him, it might be worth flipping him, but I don't know how much there is in these rumours. But if you are going to lose him just before the season starts, it's not ideal. But at least we know we do have 4, potentially 5, if you include Javane Brown, guys that can play the centre-back role. So it's maybe not too big a loss, Steve.
Yeah, you're right there. Murmillos from Argentina or anywhere in South America do happen regularly. I remember when I used to track that kind of stuff, and it would just be constant. It feels like that the football reporters need something to do. So it always seemed to be something connected. For a while there, especially after the Alphonso Davies sale, there was a lot of murmurs about players coming to Vancouver because they had money. It didn't happen that well, but still there were a lot of people agents using Vancouver as a destination because they wanted somebody else to pay for them. So it's good. I think the Godoy, if they can get something out of it, I think it might be worthwhile. He just hasn't proven that he can be healthy enough. I can't remember what he did in his first year, but it seems like every year there's a health concern, especially the last 2. And I think there might be a time to cut bait and revamp and try to bring somebody else in.
Well, if he's healthy just now, it's also a good time to possibly move him on. The thing is, Zach, as well, you've got guys like Christian Campagna, he's kind of been away at university. He's been in the Canada national team training camps as one of the training players that they bring in regularly. He's been part of the under-3 setup. He could be a guy you could look to bring in as another centre-back option as well. I'm expecting him fully to be on the under-23 side with his brother Matteo, but it's not the end of the world, really, if Godoy moved on. It's also not the end of the world if he stays, because I think he's a fantastic centre-back, and if he can stay healthy, I think he's massive for us this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on Godoy, and also I don't see them really moving him unless they recoup some of what they paid for him.
Yeah.
Which might be easy, but my perception is that might be difficult in this moment.
I wouldn't envisage them doing a loan in the worry that he breaks down when he's there, and then it's like you get him back again.
Yeah, and I can't remember how long his deal is for, like how many more years they have on more options or whatever.
Probably 1 with 1.
Yeah, because do you want to really send him out? Yeah, I think if they're gonna. If he's not going to play in Vancouver this year, again, barring injury, he's going to be playing somewhere else. They'd probably much prefer to sell him and recoup as much of, if not make potentially a profit, although based on his injury, I doubt they'd make a profit. Mm-hmm. In terms of Carpena, which I probably just butchered the pronunciation of, that would be nice. It would be nice to see. It's always nice to see young players make the breakthrough.
It's nice also to have brothers on the team. I genuinely thought at one point we'd have the Campagna brothers, the Baldissimo brothers, the Chung brothers, and it's not quite worked out that way.
Anybody know about Joel Harrison and what his update is?
No, actually, I haven't heard from him for a while because we took him to take his MLS rights, and then he wanted to go back to university.
And I think I'm assuming that he's probably going to spend the whole rest of the year because they have to graduate. I'm not sure because he's been there for 2 or 3 years or 4 years now.
Yeah, so I mean, this could be his final year there potentially, and then I don't know if they get an extra year because of any COVID stuff that was lost or whatever. So right. I would fully expect to see Harrison either with the Whitecaps under 23s or possibly play in League One BC as well, because I know he was going to come back and play for TSS in their final USL season that they had, but then decided to stay out in Michigan where he was and do some summer work at school. So that didn't happen. So I'm pretty sure we will see him playing this year. But after that New England game on Wednesday, Vanny said after it that they need to work on how to be more effective when they're on the ball. Very, very much so from what those highlights showed. He said there was too much distance between the players. He wants them to be better organised and aggressive when not on the ball. And I think we'll see that more as they get more comfortable with the formation and stuff. And I think we definitely saw that in the third game against San Diego Loyal on Saturday, because just watching the highlights from that, it seemed to be all Whitecaps. They were dominant. They were creating a number of chances. Just the finishing wasn't there. They came away with a 1-0 win in the end, and it was their draft pick, Aguilar, who we talked about in the last show, that got the winning goal. Lovely cross in from Guti. Nice finish from Aguilar as well. He seems to have really impressed Vanny. I'll ask him about that when we chat next week, but it's great to see these young guys rise to the occasion and try and earn themselves a contract. But this was a much better performance against a good San Diego team. There was fans in attendance at the stadium. And overall, Steve, I think a lot of positives to be taken from the chances that they're creating. They just need to start getting their shooting boots on and finishing some of them.
And I think that comes with getting into a rhythm of the season and everything like that. And also with the experimentation of formation, that probably has a little bit to do with it. I think they definitely need to score more than they did last year, especially to start off the season. While Thomas Asal and the back line get some chemistry going and get some, because that will take time as well. The good thing is about the back line is that almost everybody there this year last year is back this year, except for Blackman, and with the addition of him. So that's a positive. And then again, I know we talked about the back line and we talk about attack. For me, the biggest thing is that midfield, and they need to solidify that because that will help the attack and it will help the defending as well.
Yeah, I'd still like to see another addition in there, although we still haven't really got to see Alexandre and Vite work together and what they can bring. But I mean, it's positive signs, Zach. They are creating chances. They're getting there. Cava, though, still is looking for his goal. Hasn't scored now for over half a year. I think we're coming up for about 8 months since his last goal. And of course, we should say that Cava didn't play in that third game against San Diego because he seems to have some kind of a knock of some kind.
It'll be interesting to see if Cava's club form continues like this, how much longer is he chosen by John Herdman?
The thing he's got going for him, though, is Herdman knows him and he knows what he's done at national team level and what he brings to the camp and the experience. But ultimately, it's about putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yes, but you need to be informed, right?
Yeah, especially if we're going to a World Cup, you take your informed players.
Michael, if you could not use the word "if," I'd appreciate that.
When? There's still one more preseason game that's going to take place in San Diego. That's going to take place on Wednesday in LA with a scrimmage against the Galaxy before they fly home to Vancouver on Thursday. And then next Saturday at BC Place, February the 19th, an inter-squad game between the MLS squad and the MLS Next Pro squad. So we'll get our first chance to have a little look at some of the guys that might be on that roster. So you're going to be looking at basically the fringe MLS guys, the draft picks, guys from the under-23 team, and I'm interested to see what other faces we might see in there, Zach.
Yeah, I was going to say the roster hasn't been announced. Yeah, right for that.
No, nothing's been announced. The head
Right.
coach still officially hasn't been announced as Dazzle, but it's going to be Dazzle.
Maybe
Right.
maybe that gets announced at the game. That's
Yes.
like a thing. The biggest thing for me about the inter-squad game is if the MLS side stumbles and doesn't put him away, that could be a little bit hairy in that situation.
That's not a confidence booster going into the season for you.
How many people are they letting into that? It's like a limited number, right?
It's a limited number. I think
Yep,
it was
at least-
only 4 sections that were getting opened up from what I read on Ticketmaster, but I guess
So
if
they're
there's
gonna-
scope, they can always open more if there's more demand.
So they're going to cram people into 4 sections?
That's what I'm not sure.
That doesn't
I-
sound wise.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Things look like they might get lifted this coming week anyway in general, so I don't think it's probably going to play into it. But yeah, hopefully folk get out. It looks like it's going to be a
It's just
good
going to
day.
feel awkward, right? You know, when you're
Yeah.
moving back into normal, it feels awkward.
Yeah, the initial thing, it's just taking that giant leap really to move into it, and then it's just going to feel normal again. I need to get there. I'm not quite there yet myself, but it should be a good day. If anyone hasn't seen this yet, there's going to be the intra-squad game there, or I guess inter-squad is what we're going to be calling it because it's the two different teams now. There's also going to be a Q&A with Vanni Sartini and Axel Schuster. The new away jersey is going to be available. I don't know if it's getting unveiled there or if they're going to unveil it during the week, but it's going to be available to purchase there as well. And it's just going to be good, and the season's going to be all that closer. So looking forward to it. If you haven't got your tickets yet, season ticket holders got the chance to get them on Thursday onwards, and it's a general sale on Ticketmaster from Monday. Tickets are free. I'm pretty sure Ticketmaster will have some fees or something probably stuck in there as well, knowing what they're like. But yeah, head along to that next weekend. We'll be there taking it in, and we'll give you a bit of feedback on the next show about that. But that's pretty much been it for the Whitecaps news this week. We talked a lot there about the back line, and they've been good. 2 games with clean sheets, 2 goals given up over the 3 games altogether. It's looking good. Something to certainly build on. The big positive, Steve mentioned about the need to score more goals this season. If we can keep the ball out of the net, maybe we don't have to score more goals. I will gladly take 1-0 wins for every single game. That might not go down well with some from an entertainment point of view. I don't care. It's all about the 3 points. But one of the guys that I think is going to be a very key part of the defence this year is Florian Jungwirth. I love the guy. He is great on the pitch with the passion that he brings and the fight that he brings. And off the pitch, he's just a fun guy to chat to, and he brings a special presence to the locker room. So I got a chance to ask Flo this week as well, just about what sparked his love of football. What is it about the game that he loves so much? Here's what he had to tell me.
It must be love, love, love.
Well, first time I discovered it, I was 5. That was really bad. So I was lucky. I grew pretty quick, so I was the tallest guy, and it was fun because I just stomped over everyone. And that was the first time I think I fell in love with the game, and yeah, I mean, it's just everything about the game. You know, it's like the passion, the purity of it, and you know, when you find something with so much love for, and you can execute it every day, nothing better than that.
It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best.
Florian Jungwirth there, just chatting about his passion and his love for football, because it is Valentine's weekend. A lot of love in the air. And of course, as football fans, some players we love, some players we don't love. But when they're with us, we love them. When they're not with us, we tend not to love them so much. And I feel the tide switching towards former goalkeeper, player of the year with the Whitecaps last year, Max Crepeau. It's kind of felt a year of departures in many ways for the Whitecaps so far. And it all started with the trading of Max Crepeau to LAFC. I got a chance to finally chat with Max this week on an LAFC media call. First time I've got to speak to him since he left Vancouver. Wrote an article about it midweek, which had some mixed reactions. We'll hear from the man himself, though, after this.
Hi, I'm Brian White, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, keeping our love theme going, it's a song from 1979, English punk band The Damned. That was Love Song. Reached number 20 in the UK charts and is definitely one of my favourite songs by the band. I was lucky enough to see them on their 40th anniversary tour here at the Commodore. That was a fantastic gig, really enjoyed that one. And we're going to continue our chats about the love of football now with a man that we loved in his time at the Whitecaps. He has moved on to pastures new, headed over to Scotland with St Johnstone. That man, of course, is Theo Bair.
It must be love, love, love.
If I was to say to you, Theo, what is it about the game of football that you love? What attracted you to the game in the first place? Why do you love playing it? Why did you want to make this your career?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a young boy, I used to watch my sisters play constantly. I'd always want to go to their games, even to their practices. I'd try to practice with them as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid. Every time at halftime, I'd run onto the field and start kicking the ball at the net. I used to watch Jogo Benito videos on YouTube, and that really inspired me as well. But the real thing that got me is being able to watch players on TV and having crowds chant their name. That was the thing that I told my dad when I was younger. I said, Dad, one day I want to be in a stadium big like that, and I want a crowd chanting my name. And it's not about the glory or anything. It's about the passion of the game. I'm a very competitive person. I love to compete. I love, for example, I love 5v5 games and training because I just love winning those. I love being able to express myself on the field. And I think that football is somewhat an art. It's my way of expressing myself. And the older I'm getting, the more I kind of flow easier. I feel like as a young boy, you have nothing to worry about. So you just play, and you play to the best of your ability. Then you get to this little awkward stage of, I need to impress the coach. I need to do exactly what the coach says. And you kind of lose that expressiveness a little bit. Some guys don't, and those guys are special and lucky. But I feel like I lost my way a little bit, just for a little bit. And now I feel like I can express myself a little bit more. And honestly, that love is just for the passion for the game, for the competitiveness of the game, for the ability to express myself, and also for the opportunity to represent my country. Canada is a special place, and I want to be able to do that for the rest of my career. So I need to get back in there, and I'll do anything I can to.
It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best.
Theo Bair there, talking about his love of football, the love of the game. Theo, of course, has departed, as I mentioned, over to Scotland with St Johnstone. He got to make his debut on Tuesday, getting just over half an hour in a 2-1 loss for St Johnstone against St Mirren. Theo didn't play this weekend because unfortunately St Johnstone had got knocked out in a giant cup shock in the last round to Fife-side Kelty Hearts. So keeping our fingers crossed that Theo can get on the score sheet, get his first goal for St Johnstone soon. Didn't really get much of a sniff in that game on Tuesday night. I watched that game and it was just great to see him on the pitch so soon. It's amazing how quick they managed to get the visa done though over there and managed to get him over there. Doesn't seem to be the same problems in Scotland getting visas as it is in Canada. But Theo Bair, of course, has departed, as has Max Crepeau. And we've talked about Max a lot in the last couple of shows, so we won't go into that too much. But this week, Max did his first media down in LA as an LAFC player, joining up with the black and gold from the Canadian national team camp. Finally got a couple of training sessions under his belt and spoke to media early this week. Got a chance to jump on the call with a few others as well. Here's some selected highlights from that call, just what Max had to say about his trade, looking forward to his new life in LAFC, linking up with his former head coach here, Mark DeSantis, and a few more things as well.
Max, this change, does it come at a right moment in your life after these seasons in Montreal and Vancouver, moving to LA?
Yeah, honestly, I was ready for that new chapter with the organization who has the mindset of winning. And even though it's 5 years in the league, they have that winning mentality and the culture of winning within the organization and their fans. So it's in fantastic timing, There was some great additions in the off season, and so now it's about to glue everything together and get ready for that campaign.
When we last spoke, early to mid-December, we were looking ahead to the season that was coming up in Vancouver. You were excited for that. What's the timescale been like in this move for you? How did everything play out, and how pleased were you that you could actually get a resolution so quickly before heading into the national team camp?
Yeah, we spoke before. Hi, Mike. You're well, honestly. But yeah, we spoke before Christmas, and then there was some stuff going on as well in Vancouver before my move here to LA. And so the best fit for me, for my career, and for what I want to achieve, LA was interested, and to be honest, that was the best solution for me for my career to develop as a goalkeeper and to gain a lot of experience in that league. That was the next step for me. This is how I see it.
And you're reunited with Mark, strangely, down there. I think a year ago, if we spoke, that would have been a strange thing for us to think about here in Vancouver. But did you get a chance to speak to him at all before the move about what to expect in LA? Or did you just kind of go ahead with this knowing from what you've seen from being out down there at away games and stuff?
Oh, I came here to LA 2019 on the back, and then 2021, which was amazing experiences in terms of being in the opposition locker room, where the fans that brought the energy to the bank and the atmosphere is a proper football one. And so that's the only experience that I had at LAFC before. But yeah, I did spoke to Mark maybe once or twice just before things got in movement before the trade. That was a smooth transition.
When you look at the Max Crepeau that came to Vancouver in 2019 and the player that you are now that's come to LA in 2022, how have you seen your growth in the last 3 years?
Of course, playing games, there's no secret as a goalkeeper. Will work on your craft and will make yourself will make yourself better as a goalkeeper and a person where you have experience with situations that you have no idea how to deal with without playing. So it's for a goalkeeper, there's no secret, to be honest. At some point, you need to go and play a full season, which my chance was in Ottawa back in 2018. And then with Vancouver, I had the opportunity to do it, but in the MLS and within the league. And so the fact that I was able to play in Vancouver helped me a lot to understand where I was, what I can improve in my game, and what's next for me.
I wanted to ask about your personal objectives. Obviously, you've been talking about how this move was important for your development, but do you see yourself as someone who wants to stay with LAFC, hopefully be a successful team, successful player for a long time, or are you looking for this to be part of your journey and then, maybe you're going to be going elsewhere in the future?
I see myself here for the years to come, not to be honest. I'm going on 28 in May, and so to be fair, my goal is to be one of the guys that can bring the club to into the playoffs and fight for silverwares every single year. Be that a core group of guys for the organization that can make it happen. And so you've mentioned how do I see my stay? Well, if I am really honest with you, sometimes I keep my secret, but now I'll be honest. Where I want to be here for the club to make something great, to write history. And then if there's an opportunity overseas in 1, 2, 3, 5 years, and it makes sense for everybody, of course, to play European competition is the dream of pretty much every athlete. But my focus is here at LAFC for the years to come.
So, Max Crepeau there, just chatting about a number of things about his trade and looking forward to life in LAFC. Now, many of you will have seen the article I wrote coming out of that this week on AFTN. And I don't know, Zach, maybe naively, I didn't quite see the tide turning so fast against Max as it did when that interview came out. A lot of people were not happy with his comments. They weren't happy with what they saw as digs at the Whitecaps and also about the supporters here in Vancouver.
Yeah, I read your article. I thought it was a really quality, Michael, as usual. What do people expect? His comments were essentially, look, I want to go to a team that is more focused on winning. And everyone's like, well, look at the standings last year. Yeah. And it's like, but no, look at the standings over the last 4 years, that or whatever.
They had a bad season.
Yeah. And look at how they have invested in their squad, how they've built a stadium, how they've built a culture out of the ashes, out of the embers that was the Goats, that was Chivas USA. They've built it from something that was really not good into something that's pretty quality. And in terms of the fan stuff, yeah, he was commenting on the quality of his experience being there, games in LA, where the support in the supporters end is significant. And so
he used the phrase proper football atmosphere, and I think that's what rubbed some fans up the wrong way, because they took that to mean that they're saying they don't have that here. That's why I wanted to include that in the show this week so folk could hear the context of it. It may not change people's opinion of what he said, though, to be honest. But you've got to remember as well, he was on an LAFC media call, so he's there to big up LAFC and be excited about being part of that.
And just the fact that he's mentioning a proper football atmosphere, the problem here is that the supporters would like to do something, but they're kind of hamstrung. So
you can't have the tifo going up to the ceiling and all the stuff that they do,
and smoke and stuff like that.
General admission just got introduced, and then COVID hit, and there's all those kind of things.
There is rigging behind the the GA section. If it's, I don't even know if it's still a GA section or not. I hope it is for the supporters' sake. But
if you look at like the smoke and stuff like that and that kind of stuff, like you guys are hamstrung on being able to do some of that stuff. So it's not always like, although he's saying proper football atmosphere, that's because they have the ability to do that. Sometimes you don't have the ability some places.
Yeah. The phrase which you mentioned there, Zach, was he talked about LAFC have a winning mentality and he wants to win silverware with them. He wants to stay there for a number of years. And if a deal comes along to take him to Europe, yeah, he'd love to go to Europe. He says that's the dream. That's the dream of all young players, or most young players, to go and play in Europe. And I think because of how he's talked about that, it goes against the whole, I wanted out for personal reasons, and there was issues that meant I couldn't come back to Vancouver. So folk are like, it doesn't quite align with that message that was coming out earlier. And I guess we'll never really get to the bottom of it. But
that's the part that muddles everything up. The fact that they came up with that first.
Yeah, because if Max doesn't clear the air on that, then people are always going to think it's because he wanted more money, or because he didn't like, Vancouver's like approach to ambition, or like didn't like their ambition, and so.
I mean, you can certainly read that he feels we're never going to win anything here, whereas LAFC at least has a chance of winning it. And it's like, if you have to say which one of those two teams is more likely to win an MLS Cup, it's LAFC.
Yeah, and the thing is, I personally wouldn't even have a problem if he said that. I don't know why that came out the way it did. Like, if he had just come out with, I just feel like I need to go somewhere where they're investing more, he should be able to say that. I don't see why he shouldn't be able to. I think maybe though, again, speculation corner on my side, whatever you want to say, but maybe they said, if you act nice on your way out, we'll trade you wherever you want to go, or something like that.
Well, my headline may not have helped with that as well. I tweaked my headline a little bit as well when I saw some of the hostility that Max was getting.
To me, and I don't know anything. To me, it's he didn't like how Mark DeSantis was treated. That's my how I read the situation.
I mean,
which
he
might be
spoke a
totally
little bit
wrong.
about it when we chatted in December, and as I said to him in the interview, I said, when we spoke in December, you were talking about being excited here for next season, but he did say, yeah, there was already things in Vancouver before that, and you think, wonder if that is it. Now, of course, he is now reunited with Mark in LA. It's been murmured for about a month now, but it was only finally announced for some reason this week. But Mark DeSantis has gone back to LAFC as assistant coach. The new head coach there, Steve Cherundolo, said that he brought Mark in because of that MLS experience. And just by looking at Mark's Instagram, he seems to be loving life down there and he's enthused by it. And it's a strange one, though. It feels like a backward step for him. I don't quite see why he's done it. I could see him going to a club where you're learning under an experienced head coach like a Bob Bradley, even if you went to New England under Bruce Arena. But this just seems weird. I don't
think this was Mark DeSantis' first choice. Let's put it like that.
Well, he spoke in another podcast about he had the chance to go to Atletico Ottawa and he turned them down. So,
yeah, but that obviously wasn't his first choice either. I mean, I know some of his ideals, and this doesn't really. I'm a little surprised by this. Now, we'll see what comes of it, and we'll see what opportunities it maybe opens him up to, or whatever. But yeah, I'm at least a little bit surprised.
Now, LAFC, the defence has improved considerably this week because you've got Max Crepeau already, and then they added the versatile MLS veteran, really, Ryan Hollingshead from Dallas on Thursday, which I think is an excellent addition for them. And Max being there as well is going to help take this team to a different level from last season, I think. And Cherundolo was asked why he made the move for Max. And I'll just read what he said as opposed to playing it. He said, Max has proved that over the last 3 seasons, he's one of the top keepers in this league. On top of that, his personality and character are things we've been looking for as well. He's a great communicator, a great guy. He brings a lot of energy on a daily basis, which is something we're trying to inject in this group. He's only been here a couple of days, and it's been exactly that. So we're very excited about the acquisition and what he can bring to this team. Because whenever you go to training here, Max was so loud and so vocal and like big part of the energy that he brought to the team. And he's going to do it down there. There's no doubt, and defensively LAFC have got stronger. I would be stunned if they don't make the playoffs this season. I've got to say that.
Yeah, I agree. And I bringing in someone like Hollingshead he's a little bit older now, like he's in his 30s, I think, but I think it's a huge pickup for them.
We'll do our kind of Western Conference preview on the next show as well. But I mean, I fully expect LAFC to have a strong season.
I agree with Zach there. The LAFC is going to probably have a bounce back. The one who shall not be named is maybe they needed a fresh voice instead of him and everything like that. And Max Crepeau could be that Harry Potter shot of life in the system,
adding some magic to their back
exactly.
line. Yeah, definitely.
Max.
Last thing I'll ask about Max then. Looking at some of the response that he had after my article on Twitter and Facebook, and I know you'll have to take that in a snapshot that it is social media. LAFC come here July 2nd. It's the Canada Day game at BC Place. Zach, what kind of reaction are you expecting Max to get?
Yeah, I mean, I've read some of those in some of those spaces, Michael, and it's like, wow, like I'm a little bit surprised because there does seem to be quite a bit of hurt feelings over his departure and the rationale that both he's given and the unknown around it all. So it sounds like from some people it might be kind of frosty. I mean, they're even talking about like visual displays and stuff.
Yeah.
I would not you could definitely start for LAFC, but I would not start Max Crepeau for a Canadian national game for the next little bit. In BC Place, if they ever play in BC Place.
Oh, if anyone does anything like that against him when he's playing for the national team, that's just disgusting.
I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned a little bit based on what I heard.
Well, it does seem quite...
I'm just saying...
There's a lot of vitriol going around at the moment.
I'd be concerned initially to see what like if it happens really soon, I think there would be some concern.
Well, the game's not going to be here in March, so...
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I genuinely did not write the article with the thought that the fans were going to turn on Max so quick. So yeah, but
I think some people were just looking for something to turn on him because they weren't happy with the fact that because they turned on the Whitecaps initially when because they traded away the MVP and they're not bringing anything back. So I think when they turned into this, a lot of people are just upset about this trade. And so you're going to turn on it wherever you can turn on it.
Yeah. I mean, it does still feel like a giant hole for Vancouver. Like, I mean, they're taking a significant risk.
We just kept 2 clean sheets
in preseason friendlies against
USL teams that are just starting. Yeah, but ignore that. But that is it for this part. That is it for the Whitecaps chat, pretty much. We're going to be back, though, looking at the exciting news this week that Vancouver could be back in the frame for hosting World Cup 2026 matches, and we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Lucas Cavallini. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
What's your name? You're coming through, even it up. understand. I love you, I love you, I love you. What's your name? I love you, I love you, I love you. What's your name?
Welcome back to the last part of this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, we're keeping the love theme in the air of sorts. This is a song from 1993 from Sonic Youth from their fantastic Dirty album, absolute classic of an album. It was the fourth and final single taken from it. That was Drunken Butterfly. So we spoke a lot in the show about the love of the game and why players have loved it. We've heard from a few of them. We've got one more that we'll play you shortly. So I haven't asked you guys. Let's start off with Steve. What is it about football that you love so much? What was it that ignited your love of the game?
I think first and foremost is probably the '86 World Cup. That was first and foremost. It was that's the first memory I have. I think my grandfather, my dad, my uncle, all of us were watching the game, coming from Mexico. I didn't really. I think it was maybe 9, 10, so I didn't know too much about the sport. I think I grew up playing, everything else but soccer initially. But I think '86 was probably the biggest, and then following that, basically the '86ers constant titles and Dominic Mobilio and that kind of stuff. Those are the things that probably initially, and then I talked about last week the Cantona, kid. That really brought me into the Premier League and international club football. So yeah.
So why do you still love it now?
I think it's just a great game. Like, you feel the flow of especially when it's done right. It's a great game that even if you're not cheering for either team, you can really enjoy the sport. There's like the game kind of flows, and you can see the tactics and everything on the pitch and how people are lined up and where they're coming from. So it's really, and it's fast paced, but it also can slow down. You can slow it down too. So it's got different rhythms and everything like that. I like that especially.
So Zach, first of all then, what ignited your passion in the game?
It was friendship, right? My best friends growing up were really big into football, and so played with them and started watching with them. And I think football is one of those things where it's simple to play, but a little kind of hard to master, right? So there's anyone can do it.
That's me on FIFA.
Yeah, anyone can do it, but it's hard. It takes time, energy, effort, and talent, and some physical abilities to master it. And so it is really it feels like the world's game, right? It feels like it's like music. Everyone, it's a part of every culture in every way, although maybe not exactly every culture with football, but
so getting involved in the supporter side then, and with Southsiders initially, and then Curva Collective, and now with the Fraser Valley Fanatics, what's behind that passion? Why do you keep wanting to do that? Why do you keep wanting to get involved?
Yeah, I think when I went to football in Europe and I experienced the culture and the atmosphere and what's all involved, it was, the story is I came back and I said, no, I can hope that happens here and sit back and wait for it to happen, or I can actively be a part of, making it happen or helping it form in its own cultural context here in the Lower Mainland. And so I decided not to just sit back and wait for it to happen. I decided to get involved. And, right after that first trip I took to Europe, I came back and my wife and I went to a game. I don't know if we were season ticket holders already, but we'd been to games before. And so we went to a game and then went to where the supporters were and were welcomed into the community by people like Naz and Minna, and just fostered some really deep and long lasting, friendships from over the years. And I guess I'm still involved with it because it's still meaningful and because of some of those friendships and stuff. And so, it was great to be in Hamilton, with Naz, standing next to Naz, right? It was great to be in Edmonton with, not just my son, but with with Slamo, you know, like just with people I've known for years and years, enjoying
and
something
sharing experience and amazing memories with them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and yeah, like I talk about that Edmonton trip lots, but like, yeah, it was both Edmonton and Hamilton. There were like reunions with all these people I know from all over the country, people I know really, really well, people I only know from the, you know, being in the stadium with them and that kind of stuff. And it was just really, they were just really, really special, especially those who I had deeper relationship with. So like, you know, my son and I going bowling with Ozzy and his daughter, you know, my son and I going out to dinner with the Watsons, you know, like just spending, and then, you know, sharing a hotel room with Slamo, you know, like just these deep relationships. For me, it's all about friendships and relationships, and whether I'm actively involved in like supporter culture or not, like it's been a great place to make friends. And you know, I have friends there that, as we were even kind of talking about before the show, Michael, they're friends I'll be friends with, you know, for life.
Yeah, and I want to like, I agree with Zach. Like that's a very good point. Like I didn't even think of it at the time, but when you first asked the question, that basically 2010, 2011, when meeting up with these guys and seeing a different side of soccer, like I would always been watching it on TV, watching it in the stands, but you know, being in the things, and the things that, you know, really come to my mind over these first few years when I was really into the supporter side of it. You know, being behind the Romanian goalkeeper for the Seawolves, like being told that we couldn't say stuff by security, and then having to come up with different, like not being able to say fat bastard to somebody because they were fat. And then so we had to come up with fatty foods instead when he kicked off the ball. And that kind of stuff. That
one.
Yeah, that one really pops in my head. Obviously, we talked about this Seattle and Vancouver and in Langley a couple of weeks ago. We talked about that. Those kind of memories do pop in the head, and being able to meet a guy like Andy O'Brien, who I would probably say of all the Whitecaps personally changed my life, at least his story and stuff like that really had a major effect in my life. So that kind of stuff. And so if I was, you know, started going into the reporting side of it, not meeting with Zach guys and the Curva and everything like that, and then not going to training. And then one of the biggest things, the memory wise, was the first couple of years we did the VMSL soccer, the tournaments and everything. When we would do the reporting, actually like going to each game, and I think I went to like 3-4 games in a weekend. With Michael, you went to certain different games, but we meet up at certain games together. That was enjoyable too. So yeah, I could that because it feels like it's been forever. That kind of slipped through my mind when you first asked the question.
I think one of the things, Michael, that makes it special is, and not that this doesn't happen in other North American sports, but the significance of supporting your team away from home. Because that is one of the things that just like deepens relationships. So like, yeah, locally, the trips, even just to places like Seattle and Portland, and California and Utah, where like, and Edmonton, you know, like they just foster and grow and build those relationships and make them better.
I think supporting teams across, like away from your home stadium, whatever, it does happen in other sports, but it doesn't happen in the same way the soccer, where you go as a community. I think that's different than what it does there, and especially because you'll see it in spattering of away fans in other sports, but you don't see the collection of fans that you see as supporters in the way stadiums in soccer.
Yeah, which just ties into the way you actually support at the games, right? Like that's one of the things that just sets it apart from everything else, really.
Well, it was like that time, Zach, we went to Ottawa and we're going through the streets going, "Let's burn the Capitol." Oh no, wait a minute, that was that Italian Ultras film. I'm mixing those up, or it might have been the TFC fans that went there. One of those two things. Anyway, I get those mixed up.
Were any truckers involved?
Don't think so. I know a lot of what we're saying, why we love the game, it can be put across so many sports. I love the theatre of football and the drama of the football. Like sports of all kinds, but especially football, creates such a drama. Like I when people say to me, why do you like darts? Darts is sport and drama, because things can just change all of a sudden, and it's like you're controlling things. But with football, I think initially, I got into the game, and so many of my early memories are with my granddad. Because as I was growing up, it was just my mum, my gran, and my granddad. My dad wasn't around for various reasons, although he is now. He wasn't in prison. I will just stress that, as far as I know. But I've so many memories of being with my granddad, and when it was Scottish Cup final day, he would buy me a little Highland toffee chew, and we'd sit and watch the game together. Then he took me to my first games. We went to see Glenrothes Juniors, which was a non-league side in my hometown. And we'd walk to the games and we'd go and see those games, and that got my love of going there. And I always remember writing in my final year at primary school a story about just evoking when I go there and the smells of the stadium. Like, you could smell what we call deep heat. It was like a heat cream, like a liniment rub. You could smell that, and you could smell the onions frying, and all that stuff I equate with the game. And then as got older, it's the memories that you have with your friends, and that's why I've really enjoyed doing our East Fife podcast, because I've got a chance to reconnect with some of my mates from back in Scotland, and we're talking about things from the past. Do you remember that trip where someone threw the glass through the television screen in the social club, or do you remember that time when we set fire to the Christmas tree in the social club? Both of them in Berwick, funnily enough, those stories, which we are now banned from. Yeah, listen to the podcast for those stories. But it's like, as you said, Zach, it's going to away games. And it's like you're representing your local community at this away game. You're representing the team, and not from a violence point of view or stuff like that, as I've joked about, but just going, it's like you feel the pride, you feel the community, which is missing a little bit here, but I think it's growing a lot more. CPL certainly helped with that as well, and the more clubs we get, I think we're going to see that. But it's a game that I can't imagine not being in my life, really. And I've just made some great friends out of it, like you two here. I don't know how quickly I would have settled into Canada, or if I even would have settled into Canada, if A, there wasn't football to watch, and B, I hadn't been taken into that community by Zach and by Johnny Monster and those early days and the things we did at Swangard that we certainly would not be allowed to do in modern day society. We'd be kind of cancelled, I think, if we did some of the stuff now that we did back then. But happy days, happy memories. I just love the game. Let us know why you love it. Share your memories of things as well, and just why you love the game of football so much, why it's important in your life. We're going to play our final love of football snippet now from one of the Whitecaps players, and I think I've saved the best to last, because the passion shown here by Whitecaps striker David Egbo about why he loves the game, why he wants to play the game, I can't imagine you'll listen to this and not be enthused. Here's David Egbo.
Must be love, love, love.
What is it about football that you love? What got your love of the game, and what is it that you love about playing the game and watching the game?
Okay. Football for me is different than most people would say. Football is my life. It's my passion. It's my first love. It's what makes me different. I remember growing up in Nigeria, and we were in class, and our teacher asked us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He was like, "I want to be a doctor. Or I want to be a soldier. I want to be this." When it got to my turn, I said, "I want to be a footballer." And I was different, and like maybe they laughed at me. It was cool, but that was because I loved it so much, and I could not get away from it. I stuck to it. So football I just love the way it makes me feel, and how whenever I'm kicking the ball on the pitch, everything goes away. All my troubles, you're not thinking about anything. It's just you and the ball, and you are just in the zone, and you are vibing, Off the pitch, I love watching soccer because I'm like a visual learner, so I love watching. I watch anything. I watch women NWSL. I watch anything because that's just the way I learn. And even if I can't catch a game, I'd love to watch the highlights of it just to see what happens, because you never know. So you can learn something from anywhere. So I watch and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I love watching football because it's just something about the game that just brings people together and just puts a certain type of feeling in your body. And I love football, man. I ain't even gonna lie. I really love it. I could watch it all day, all week. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, as my wife would sadly testify to.
It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best.
So David Egbo there, absolutely fantastic stuff from David, just talking about his love of the game. And yeah, you listen to that, you just want to go and watch the football match, basically. But Steve talked about one of the things that ignited his passion for the game was the 1986 World Cup. And what would we all love? To watch the 2026 World Cup, not just played in Canada, but actually here in our home city of Vancouver. It looked like it was a done deal for the longest time. And then the rug was whipped away from us. No longer was Vancouver part of the hosting cities. There was always chatter that, they could go back in. And then it was like, no, they won't get back in. But then Montreal dropped out. There has been talk about Edmonton with infrastructure and stuff as well, that they may not get selected. We'll have to wait and find out. Toronto's still in the mix. They're pretty much a shoo-in, you would have to think, as being one of the host cities in Canada. Edmonton should be 75-80%, or if it is just the two cities, 100%. But then all of a sudden this week, Vancouver was back in the frame as being a host city. It's something, Zach, we'd heard about in the grapevine, that the chance to do this had never fully died. John Horgan, though, came out and said this week that it's a much different sort of landscape as it was when they pulled out. COVID has obviously hit the city hard. The chance to have Vancouver as a host city for the World's Game. They're already talking about having another bid for the Winter Olympics in 2030. But to get the World Cup, it's a much bigger thing. He also talked as well that initially it was a lot of money that it was going to be in handing over the city for weeks for just 2 games. Now it could be 3 to even up to 5 games. It's exciting, Zach. I'm still kind of not wanting to get too excited and get my hopes dashed again, but they're up there.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the not excited about this as much as I would prefer for this to be the case, prefer for this to come to fruition. It's like I won't believe it's happening until like FIFA's officially announcing it, kind of thing, because yeah, and this isn't a political thing for me. Like it's not this party, that person, whatever. I just know that as soon as people said they don't want the World Cup in this city, I was like, okay, I have no time for those people. I don't care what their stripes are, who they are or whatever.
And I was almost out campaigning for the Liberals.
I don't think I did that, but
that involved me having to leave the house. Obviously, I was against that.
But no, I mean, obviously, we want it here because we want to be close. I hadn't heard that what you just said, Michael, about instead of 2, it could be 3 to 5.
Yeah, that's what Horgan was on the Donny and Daly show, is it? That's over in the island now. And
that's correct. Yeah, Donny Daly.
No.
So he was just talking on that, and he said, that it's changed. It could be 3 to 5. To get 5 would mean Edmonton's not part of it, surely. But
that's what I was going to say. The one thing I would say in all of this is, I will feel really bad for the city and people of Edmonton if Vancouver gets in and they don't. Now, that's without going into all the finer details of their bids and what their cities and stadiums and whatever offer. But I will feel really bad for the especially Canadian football supporters in Edmonton if their chance at hosting a World Cup is now usurped by Vancouver's late re-entry. They have every right to feel aggrieved.
I know some of the people from Edmonton, and I don't feel sorry for them at all.
I've got to be honest, I couldn't care less either if we get it and they don't. We're heartless here.
And I'm not talking about the people that went to the games recently. I'm talking about some other people I know there.
I don't know anyone in Edmonton apart from Alan Koch, so I'd feel for him, but I'm sure he would just come back to Vancouver to watch the games. But it's exciting, Steve, but are you tempering expectations just a little bit?
I never really gave up that much hope back then. I always thought there was a chance for it to come back. I honestly did. I never feel like there's in these kind of situations there's a hard deadline. I always feel like there's a chance for anything to change at whatever moment. I know the FIFA definitely would love to have Vancouver as part of the World Cup situation, because I know that they probably want to do like some kind of convention here prior to the World Cup.
Well, the original rumours were the draw for it was going to get held here.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. That people like Vancouver as a destination city. So I know that the FIFA executives probably would like to be in Vancouver at some point.
The thing was, I asked some people, and they kept on telling me, "There's no way back. There's no way back. There's no way back."
Yeah.
So I that's partly why I'm surprised.
See, what I'd been told all along was FIFA wanted Vancouver in. So because they wanted that, because it's a great stadium for all we might think of it on a week by week basis, it's a big stadium. Maybe more than great.
And obviously there will be, like, if there's natural grass there, then it becomes a very good stadium in my books. And there will be for that place, no matter how much people say, "Oh, it's just like the women's thing." There definitely will be grass there when that's played.
100%. It's not getting played in turf.
So, so for me, that's one of the biggest issues for BC Place, is that the artificial turf. And then on top of that, I'm okay with because I'm not a big fan of the outside part of the stadium, but all you gotta do is walk in from outside to inside, whatever. Like the walkway and the general outside.
I don't mind the outside of it, actually. I think it's quite nice. It's big. It's
not the outside part.
Oh,
like the walking areas and everything.
Yeah, they are pretty cramped. But then I find that in a lot of stadiums. It's worse than a lot of the English stadiums that I've been in. Scottish ones are a bit roomier, some of the bigger ones that I've been in, but some of the English ones I've been in is like.
And I've always liked stadiums where you don't have you kind of have an open area, so you can even be walking around that area and you still catch the game. I like those kind of stadiums, so hopefully in the future something like that can be done.
Now, one of the things that they've been talking about for Vancouver, and the reason that they really want Vancouver in it, is because you've got that Vancouver-Seattle corridor. So you've got the Pacific Northwest, which would be a fantastic option for having shared groups or two groups playing in the two cities. We've got like a second round tie, I believe. Canada's got that as well. I think everything is it from the quarterfinals that's going to be in America, but we've definitely got a couple of games in the second round as well. So the training facility here, I mean, when you speak to players are blown away by the training facility that the Whitecaps have. And if a team can base themselves here, I think that's a big selling point as well. And there are so many good facilities and stadiums in the city. You've got the transportation, you've got the infrastructure, everything that kind of came from the Olympics and stuff as well. There's not a lot of work needing to be done, whereas in Edmonton, they definitely have to improve transportation, especially from the airport into the downtown area. And I know folks seem to love Commonwealth Stadium here. Now, I've never been. I will preface it by saying that. But I don't, just the look of it from an aesthetic point of view, the fact that there isn't roof and stuff, to me, it's not a good stadium. Now, you've been there, Zach.
Yeah, it's not a nice stadium.
But it was voted, was it not the best Canadian stadium in some poll last year or something?
For CFL? Or
just all stadiums in Canada. I'll try and find that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pigskin ground, right? So it's not the best for football. I mean, you talk about the Women's World Cup. I mean, the Canadian supporters for the Women's World Cup, they were like in the end zone with they were very far away from the pitch. It was not good. It was not ideal, which is why the Voyageurs worked with the CSA make the Voyager section not back there again for the World Cup qualifiers, and they were at least in the corner, kind of half, kind of up to the 18-yard box or so on the one side. But it's not. I mean, for Canada, it's a okay stadium for Canada, right? Like it's a good stadium for Canada. But yeah, in terms of like football stadiums, it's not like soccer stadiums. It's not ideal.
Okay, I found it here. A study for a site called gambling.com ranked 50 stadiums in the country based on 7 factors: capacity, average price of car parking, number of parking options. I don't know if this is a parking thing or whatever. Google review rating of the stadium, number of reviews in total, and the average rating of local restaurants, and the number of food and drinking options per 1,000 residents. And Commonwealth Stadium was top in Canada with 235 points. BC Place was second on 223. Royal Athletic Park in Victoria was third on 218.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense. I don't buy this.
Oh, that's funny.
I remember at the time thinking, I don't get this at all. But
yeah, I've been to Royal Athletic for football for the Under-20 World Cup in 2007. It was fun. That's where I saw. Well, I don't know if he played. That's where I saw Kendall's Costa Rica.
I think it goes without saying that everyone would be loving it if it was here, but I am still tempering my expectations. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I have kind of let myself a little bit this week. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. That is pretty much it for this show. Our Valentine's Day special, as I've called it, which I guess hasn't really been too much about Valentine's Day, but there's been a lot of love chat. Last thing I'll ask you guys, what's more important to you? Family or football? You're giving me weird looks, Zach.
Oh, my family is more important than football. But
Steve,
I do bring my family to a bunch of football.
Is family for you, Steve, more than football?
Yeah, Sandeep's just like over there, so I'm going to say family.
Ah, okay. Well, Caitlin's upstairs, so I'm going to say football. It's like those people that bring banners to games, and it's like, the one I remember was at a Man United game. It's like, Man United, kids, wife, in that order.
Oh my.
So everything for me has always revolved around football. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because of this week's wavelength. I wanted something that had a kind of love side to it. And this week's wavelength is a cautionary tale if you do pick football over family. It's a song about meeting a girl, settling down with her, having a family, and then losing her and your kids because football was more important to you. Price worth paying, in my opinion, but we'll move on for that. And all the events in your life are coordinated around a football memory, like promotion, an away game, or your wife having legs like Ian Wright. So this is a song from Brighton punk band Scurvy. It's called Football, and here it is. Although I love them, my kids and wife, they know that football is my life. Brighton punk band Scurvy there. Song from 2020 album Apathetic Apology. You can find that on Bandcamp. That's Scurvy, Skurvi.
Oh no! I was gonna say, I don't know if I ever told you the story about so Cheryl and I started dating, or we met in the September '98. We started dating in October 99, and as things got more and more serious, we had conversation about getting married. And I remember this was at some point in 2000, yeah. And I said, Cheryl, we're talking about marriage. I said, I really, there's just been a big announcement in 2000. And I said, look, Cheryl, I really, I want to go to the World Cup in Germany in 2006. And ideally, I want to go as a single dude with my friends and whatever. So I said, I kind of don't want to get married till 2006. And Cheryl said to me, she said, that's okay. Getting married in 2006, that's totally fine. I said, really? And she said, yeah, you just won't be marrying me, but I mean, you feel free to get married. So we got married. Anyways, we 2001, December 2001, we got engaged. We got married in August 2002. And then we didn't do a big honeymoon. We did a really small honeymoon. And then in 2006, we spent 4 weeks on a trip, which was our kind of real honeymoon. 3 weeks in Germany, a few days in Paris, and a few days in London, all around the World Cup.
Well, for me, wedding-wise, there were no events between January 1st and January 10th in 2002, so nothing really came up in soccer. Because that's when I met her, on January 1st, and we got married on January 10th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I knew it was a quick thing. I didn't know it was that quick.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Caitlin knew what she was marrying into, that's all I'll say on that. And I've told the story before about taking her to a game, East Fife, and she sat up the back of the stand reading a book. But I did buy her a pie at halftime, so there was that. But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Just before we go, Steve, any final thoughts, anything you learned this week? Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Whitecaps Beat, just celebrating my 12-year anniversary on Twitter today, actually.
Initially I thought you were going to go back to marriage.
No, that was 20. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Back in January. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Whitecaps Beat. And what I'm thankful or learned is I'm so glad that there's not a Tim or a Tony, a former Whitecap goalie. So then I can, whenever I talk about Thomas Hassel, I'll just speak about Thomas Hassel.
Yeah, that is always a plus. Yeah, and you got anything special planned for Sandeep, or do you not want to say because she's in the room for Valentine's Day?
No, we don't celebrate Valentine's Day. We've never. I don't think we've ever done that. I don't believe. I
mean, let's be honest. It's a load of crap, really. But anyway, in our Valentine's Day special, Zach, any final thoughts from you? What have you got planned for a special Valentine's surprise? I imagine you're a rose petals everywhere kind of guy.
You can find me on Twitter at ZacharyAM. I think we might have dinner at home as a family, probably. Maybe we'll order in something special. I don't know. There's not a lot of big plans. I have in the past done kind of things, but yeah, when you're married with kids, you just hang out with as a family. And with these times we live in, we don't go out nearly as much as we used to. If my thought for this week is, if anyone was watching today, you saw Bayern Munich has a club that they call their Friendship Club. And today we did our friends a solid.
I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. Give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/AFTN Canada. And leave some lovely glowing reviews and any nice ratings on any of the podcast platforms. That would be good as well. I learned this week that maybe all hope is not lost. East Fife could avoid relegation. We got our first win of the year today. It was a big win. We're back in the hunt. Could they pull off an amazing escape act? We're only 6 points out of getting out of the automatic relegation places. Come on, you can do it, guys. I know you can. But that is it for this show. So as always, thanks for listening. Take care. Have a happy Valentine's Day, however you choose to spend it. Just don't give cards. Save the paper. Get lots of chocolate. Remember, 15th, that's when you should be celebrating it. It's Cheap Chocolate Day. We will be back with another episode soon. Oh, it's only our 500th one. We'll try and make that a bit special for you guys. Until then, thanks for listening. And mon the Caps!
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.